Well, you've always been available to the people. I remember having dinner one night with you here and you saying hello to everybody and people knowing you and felt very comfortable to come right up to you and ask you a question.
Well, these residents have been my consultants. This was a partnership. Aging isn't something that I was experiencing on a grand scale when I started 30 years ago. I am now, but these people have experienced it, and they become great partners to say, this is the next best thing we need. How can we get better medical care? How can we improve transportation? What do we need in our interfaith chapel services? So they become part of the team, and that's really what's made the success of Erickson is the 30,000 or so residents that have contributed so heavily.
And some of those 30,000 or so residents, I think, still may have some questions. Like, what about the health services? That's going to remain as it has been?
That's been one of the signatures of Erickson. Most people would say, all right, I can give you the dining room meal and I'll take care of you in a nursing home. But the idea of taking care of people on a permanent basis with primary medical care,
Yes.
that was something that I came up with by just watching people in the hallways. You'd see people you'd talk with them and you'd find they're dealing with 4 and 5 different doctors, and they're trying to coordinate all their own medicines, and nobody's in charge of their total health, and their outcomes were poor, and their ability to get appointments was delayed. And so I thought we need to bring a central primary medical system into the campuses, and we were large enough to do that.
And that's going to be a continuing
We're going to
project.
continue with Erickson Health.
Yeah.
And one of the things that finally evolved into was Erickson Advantage, our own Medicare insurance program. And we plan to continue with that program. We've finished the demonstration with CMS, and now we're with the bill in Congress, in both the House bill and the Senate bill, the health reform bills, to say that Erickson Advantage will become a permanent program under CMS on January 1st, 2011, which is when our expiration date is.
John, you have something I found very interesting, and that is kind of a safety valve for these communities. Say they objected to something management was doing or the new management. They have a way to come back at that, don't they?
Yeah, it's a very interesting management structure. But the real safeguard to make sure that there's no change at the community level for the residents is the structure that we put together way back in the beginning. We have this outside nonprofit board, and when the campus is developed, we actually have sold the campus to that nonprofit board, and they maintain the campus for the benefit of all the residents. And we are actually contracted managers to that board. And so if a new owner came in and wanted to change all the management services and said, well, we're giving up on doing medical services in the community, well, that nonprofit board would say, absolutely not. We need medical services, and that's what we're going to contract for. And so the structure is very stable and very safe in that on the inside, you have a residence council that kind of supervises every day what you're doing. They'll tell you if the green beans are too soft or too squishy. They'll give you every piece of information you want. On the outside, you've got this professional group of overseers as an independent board, and then you have the experience of Erickson as the leading management company and the innovator of the industry. It's kind of the perfect combination to say you've got the right ingredients to give the maximum level of service and cost control to the residents. So even if somebody comes in new as an owner of the company, I think they're going to have the same standards that we've always had to get the best level of service to the residents at the best cost structure and still give them the optimal environment for aging. I don't see anybody changing that formula. So that's why I tell the residents that I believe the next 25 years will be every bit as good as the first 25 years.
John, I want to ask you about something that's very close to my heart. That's retirement living television. That is set up with a separate foundation and so forth, but what's the situation there?
Well, retirement living is a separate company. It was funded by my foundation work and some of the stuff that I wanted to do outside of this entity. And it's fine. We're doing well. We're in that transition stage where we're trying to find the next partner to platform this so that we get from 10 million households to 50 million. And also we're trying to get the providers of television to be willing to pay some fees in order to talk to this audience and aggregate this audience. Those are the two hard things. As you know, television is a very tight-knit group, And but we're having a really good success. I think we'll be able to make some announcements in the next few months that we've brought retirement living to a whole new threshold of distribution.
That was really a dream of yours, wasn't it? Television for people 55 and older, quality television.
Quality television, and plus television that talks to them about what's going on in their life and what creates dignity, what creates value, what do you live for? Those are the kind of things I wanted to talk about, and nobody wants to address seniors in society today on a positive basis. So even if the rest of society didn't want to do that, I think it's valuable that we do it for them, because the people that are in this post-55 time of their life, they love to be talked positively both to and about.
You know, you've always been involved with all your adult life with being an advocate for seniors and all. How do you see your role now in the future, and what are you going to be doing 10 years from now?
Well, people ask me about this, and I say, well, one is I certainly will still go by my communities, and I'd like to be sort of the chief spokesperson. It's sort of like you wouldn't want to take Colonel Sanders away from the chicken store. Otherwise, you know, you'd have a big disconnect there.
Yeah.
So
the Erickson name's going to stay?
So the Erickson name's going to stay.
Good.
It's going to stay under the branding of what we've done. I hope I can challenge the ownership and the employees and the residents and all the groups that I've been involved with. I hope I can challenge them that it's a connected vision of all of us, that we have to make life better for each other every day. And we only pass through here once. So when we have that opportunity, whether it's expanding our church programs in the campuses, is it taking the next step in medical, what do we need to do in transportation, we're going to know what are the next best things that we can do. And that's what I'm hoping I can be kind of the catalyst for.
John, anything you'd like to add?
Well, it's been really enjoyable to go through and have the opportunity to affect as many people as I have in life. But it's also interesting to go through a time like this, which is obviously very stressful, to have your whole life's work come under this much pressure. And so it's kind of an interesting way for me to sort of look back and say, underneath it all, John, what was the most important? And it wasn't the power that I got out of being the biggest in the industry or by collecting together the largest amount of money. I look back on it today and I'd say, the most important thing to me was the fact that I made a bigger difference in the lives of more people than you can imagine. And they have a great sense of appreciation about that. And I hope that I get to do that for the next 20 years. And I may not be able to do it with the money or the financial clout that I had at one point in time, but I don't believe the opportunity goes away. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing as my next path in life, is to just figure out those next places. I was talking with one of the employees that I started the company with earlier this morning. And I was saying, I remember when we had barely a nickel to rub together. It was end of the hard working day, which were long hours. We would sit in a room next to the kitchen in the back and eat dinner and open a bottle of wine, and we'd talk about what's the next best thing we could do. And you know, those days are still in front of us.
Indeed they are. John, thank you, and good luck to you, and thank you for your service to seniors and your continued service to seniors.